Welcome to episode 222 of Reclaiming the Faith. This is my interview with my friend Moe Arnold, who's one of the elders at my church, Grace Houston. And this interview was so inspirational to me. Can you imagine having your best friend die in your arms as a very young man? Moe has experienced a lot of trauma, and yet his faith in Jesus Christ and his love for God's people is just incredible. I know you're going to be blessed by this episode, and if you are, please share it with a friend. And if you wouldn't mind considering subscribing to this podcast or rating and reviewing it wherever you're listening to it, that would be a big blessing to me as well. You can find links to all of my content, all of my resources at my website, philsbaker.com. And if you have any questions you want to ask me for an upcoming Q&A episode, please send those to me. You can email me at philsbaker@protonmail.com, or you can hit me up on social media. All right, well, without any further delay, let's get into episode 222. Moe Arnold, thanks so much for joining me today. This is great, man.
Thanks for having me.
Your mom just called.
Yeah, my mom called.
Man, she's such an awesome woman.
Sure.
Such an encouragement.
She is.
Man.
Yeah.
What were things like growing up for you in your house?
My mom was very, it's kind of a crazy story. So my mom we're technically first generation. My dad is from Tallahassee, Florida, but my mom is from Jamaica, just outside of Kingston.
Okay.
And my mom's has a really interesting story that we're kind of even just now getting to hear more of. She came here, and I believe she's like 14, 15, with only her dad. They came to Miami, I believe it was. And where she grew up in Jamaica, she grew up, her mom was a lady who had a lot of kids with a lot of different men, which in Jamaica is something that's not too uncommon. But from what I understand, it wasn't a really good relationship. She was raised really by her grandmother, and her dad was really the only, besides the grandmother, were really the only constant in her life. And so, different siblings, but not really siblings. And really, whenever they moved here, they cut ties with everyone. So we don't know any of our family from her side, not one person. We know her name. We know where her dad is born. But just recently, the last time we went to Jamaica all as a family, one of the things we were going to do as a family was going to go into town and go try to find some of her roots, which is also a complicated thing because they weren't like wealthy people. They were pretty poor, like literally grew up in those mountain hills outside of Kingston. And so if you go find your people, what are you really going to find? Most likely people in poverty that are, most likely going to want something or what. And it's just a lot of interesting things to deal with. And whenever I think about my mom and just her background and who she is, like in her family, her immediate, meaning me, my brother, and my sisters, and her husband, how much we really mean to her, because she really doesn't have any other family. Like, we're her family. Wow. She doesn't know her family. She doesn't have an experience with like a home group like we had, and how she raised us up in, which was incredible. And so the question I think originally was, what was it like growing up?
Yeah.
With her in her house? And, my mom was and is just a completely devoted follower of Jesus, like beyond anyone that I've ever known, which is such a gift to grow up with a parent that had like uncompromising belief and trust and faith in Jesus, who came from a place with nothing and had just instilled in her herself through experience and faith that, like, no matter what happens, no matter what we have to give, no matter what we don't have or do have, that the number one thing is that we're within Christ and we could follow him and we could trust him. And it doesn't matter if we don't have that much food on the table or the lights aren't on or what, we have one car with one backseat with 5 kids and 2, like, we don't care, and we're not going to compromise on that. And that's just been a blessing. Yeah, go ahead.
And your dad's a preacher? Is that right?
Yeah. So my dad's been gone for, I think it's 15 or 16 years now. We're going on, 2007, 2008, August 26th. So yeah. August 26th, 2008. And so, yes, he was a pastor, but he's bivocational for most of his life. So had a church head pastor full-time, but also worked full-time. Family of pastors. I have an uncle who actually just passed this 2 years ago. Fraser Arnold, who had a pretty prominent church in Miami. Really cool. Teddy Bridgewater spoke at his funeral. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But cousins that are in the ministry and are pastors, elders. My grandpa was a church elder. And but my dad he's got a crazy testimony. He was a drug addict, addicted to crack cocaine for a good portion of his life. Even while, by the time I came around, he had been delivered, but he went back and forth. And he has his testimony, his crazy testimony. But he said that one time he was literally just in the crack house doing drugs, high, and he heard from God, a voice from God audibly that said, like, if you do not stop, that you will die. And that was the last time he was delivered, and after that started fully living his life for Jesus. He ran from God for most of his life. He was from Tallahassee, Florida. He tried to run because he wanted to get away from church people, so he went to New Jersey and was there. He was in Vietnam, and he was up there in New Jersey during the time of American Gangster.
Yeah,
he was up there during that time, doing drugs with those people.
All right,
like, and his sister, who has passed, and she died young of breast cancer, but was up there, and he went up there, and him and his Uncle Fraser, brother Fraser, who was the pastor in Miami, were up there together and just partying, and and then he had my older sister, and he had met my mom and got married, and they moved to Florida because they wanted to get away from these Jesus people. And his testimony is that he came here and he came to manage stores. I believe they were like naturalizer stores, those old shoe stores, if you remember him from Houston. And so his first boss, he says, like one of the first conversations he asked from, he was like, "Hey, man, do you know Jesus?" And he's like, "Oh my God, I can't get away from these Jesus people." But they were in Galveston, then they moved in, and so yeah, grew up in the church from
this is you you're talking
family.
about.
Yeah, grew up in the church
here in Houston.
Here in Houston,
okay.
Bread of Life Church, which is Life Church now.
Okay.
The big dome church, and the children's church is a castle, which I remember that being in elementary school, them first starting to build that castle. I remember when they built the dome, it used to be across the street in this little strip center where we had churches, where I got baptized in that church, not the new one with the dome, with the The one before, I was actually baptized in both of them. So I was super young when I got baptized the first time, but I knew I wanted to. And then I got baptized again because I was like, okay, I understand more and I want to get baptized again.
This was your dad's church?
No. So Life Church, Bread of Life Church at that time was pastored by a guy named Dusty Kemp.
Okay.
And Dusty has since passed as well. And he was the head pastor of that church. We moved over to Bread of Life. My dad was, he worked in several roles there in the ministry, but when we left, he was the pastor over the school of ministry there.
Okay.
So their school of ministry was for if you were going through their program to get your pastoring license to get ordained, you'd go through that program, which my dad would run. And
this is like a discipleship thing?
Yeah, it was like kind of like almost like a stripped down seminary.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and they called it the school of ministry. And it's like, you want to do anything in pastoral ministry, you go through this class that was at Bread of Life.
Cool.
And so they went through that or they ran that for several years.
And how old were you when you got baptized?
So the first time.
Hey, I got 2 also.
Yeah. The first time I was 5.
Okay.
I was 5.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I could see it in Moe. I understood things really early, and I knew like from really early. I can barely remember it, but I remember getting in that because it was one of those like above ground, like in the church, you would like walk up these stairs and get into the tub, and it was like clear in the front. I remember getting into it and being like, no, I know who Jesus is, and I hear and feel him in my heart, and he speaks to me, and I want to get baptized. And then again, they had at the new church, there was actually like a prayer garden with like this beautiful baptismal pool is what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5, and then probably again when I was probably like 8 or 9.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then, like, let's go teenage years. What was teenage Moe like?
So at that time, so it's interesting because grew up in the church, super big church community. And then I guess I was probably like 12, maybe around junior high years, where my dad was feeling called, that Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he's anointed me to preach good news. He just kept getting it over and over and over again. And he felt that he was being called to start his own, to start a church in Alief, Texas, which was completely random. We weren't from Alief. We were living in Katy, Texas. Life Church was not in either of those places, Bread of Life Church. And so it was kind of a real random thing. It had to be a God thing. And so he planted a church there and we were there. And so in my teenage years was a lot of like growing up and him pastoring this church, like a lot like of it on his own. He'd have different leaders and kind of had a couple of bad experiences with some church leaders that were doing some pretty shady stuff, but overall, we grew up in Katy, and so going from like the church youth kid and to out of that like big community of where we were meeting with church kids all the time into like the Katy ISD school system, everything was about Katy football and sports. And
you played for Katy?
Yeah. Katy. Go Katy Wednesday. Go Katy Wednesday.
That was a solid football team.
Yeah, solid program. They're in the playoffs right now. We 2006 year graduated. 2005 football year was our senior year. State championship, South Lake Carroll versus Katy High School in the old Texas Stadium. All the Cowboys legends were on the sideline because Trey Newton, Nate Newton's son, was the running back for South Lake Carroll. Greg McElroy, who played in the NFL, won a national championship at Alabama, was the quarterback for South Lake Carroll. Andy Dalton, who's a friend, was the quarterback of our team, TCU, all-time leading passer in Bengals history. Joe Burrow probably beat that, but still in the league now, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, he's still playing football. But yeah, so grew up in Katy, and so you got baptized, knew God from a very, very young age. Like clearly heard from God. Whenever I got to my teenage years, football, parents. There's 5 of us kids. So parents are super busy with kids, with church, with work. And I just basically assimilated into my friend group who were, for the most part, non-believers. And, they're kids from the neighborhood, kids I grew up with, kids, people that I love. I still have group chats with these guys that I've known since the first grade, some of them first grade, second, third grade. And, but man, we were just into the nonsense, like from a young age, like everything you could think of that boys will get into, whether it's shooting out car windows with slingshots as they drove by, or car hopping is what we'd call it, and just go and open people's car doors and stealing beer from their fridge, and people living their garages open. Everything that you could think of that you would see in like, middle class Texas, football, smaller town. Katie's huge now. Everything you could think of. We got into it, my friend group where it was like, the athletes, the, football players who were partying, introduced to girls and everything that comes along with that at a very early, young age. Like I said, drinking. Thank God when we were in high school, we stayed away from drugs for the most part. Some kids would, smoke pot, but that wasn't us. But it was just a very worldly upbringing in the teenager years. And
so what happened after you graduated?
So after I graduated, I was doing the football thing and got some small offers, and, just going from, like Katy High School was it's like one of the best programs in the country. And so I was going to visit these places like Evangel Christian in Missouri, these little small NEIA schools. And I'm like, man, like literally my high school locker room is nicer than this. My high school stadium, there's like 10 times as many people at my high school football game than there is here in this little, podunk. And it's like, man, I would rather just go party at Blinn in College Station. And so that's what I did. Went to Blinn, was there for our freshman semester. And we come home. I had a good friend that I lived with there. So our first year, we lived in this place, and then our second semester, I moved with 2 of my good friends, Matt Holtum and Joe Yotis, and we moved into this house right near the stadium in College Station. It was 300 Montclair, and it was like the ultimate party house. We just partied all the time, had people, but over that Christmas, this is a sophomore year, over that Christmas break, we go home, and we would always have big parties at home. Everyone would come home, and I had our friend Matt, who was my roommate and one of my best friends. He lived in Katy, and it was like on a couple acres, and so people would come out there, and we had a party one time, and this girl had invited these guys that we didn't know, and you're that age, and guys show up to the party you don't know, and by that time we were doing drugs. So we're drinking and popping pills, things like that mostly. So everyone's all riled up, and so a fight breaks out with these kids, and I'll never forget, because for whatever reason I was in the front, dead center, in the middle, and we were like outside this guy's house. In front, there's like these ditches. And it was like, movie scene. They're on this side. We're on this side telling these kids, hey, you need to leave. And I remember this kid, the guy who was in the front, like takes a swing. And so we're getting ready to fight. Swing back, and like the two groups just come together. I just remember being smashed in between people, and I'm like, can't move really. And then I go to the ground, and the next thing I remember is my friend Matt calling my name, Mo, Mo, Mo. Hey, help me. So I go over to this guy, Matt, and I look at him, and he says, he got me, he stabbed me. And I'm looking at this guy, Matt, my friend, and he's got blood coming out of his shirt, middle of his shirt. And he goes to the ground. So I'm there and I grab him, put my hand over it, and I'm just telling him, hey, it's going to be okay. Hold on. And he's talking to me. He's like, Mo, I don't think it is, talking. And I just sit there and I watch the guy, life, it leaves his eyes. And
how old were you? 19, 20?
19.
And he was about the same
19,
age?
yeah. He was just, 19.
Oh my gosh,
20.
dude, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, crazy experience. And at that age, just you see, I think that if you've seen, and different people who've been and seen death in different circumstances, it's crazy. But to see life, someone alive, and then the spirit leave, it's just it was a very traumatic thing. And so I sit there with them, ambulance comes. It's the craziest night of my life. We're there's probably 100 kids out here, and no one can leave. So you're out there all night. So I was in the middle. My brother was there to the left of me. This guy, Matt, was behind me. And my other friend that we were roommates with, Joe, was to the right of me. And they all got stabbed. Everyone except for me in that group, which was completely insane to me. Joe got stabbed in his side, collapsed his lung. My brother got stabbed in the back. He had to go to the hospital, but he was fine, just missed his spine, thank God. And then Matt got stabbed in his heart, and he was gone. And the most tragic thing about all of this, aside from Matt losing his life, was this kid. I'll never forget. The guy who was doing the stabbing was this 14-year-old kid, 13, 14-year-old kid. Maybe he's 15. But he was the brother of the guy that was instigating it. And he was this young kid. He was on drugs. And this kid is in jail still today, and his life is essentially over because this thing that happened when he was 15 years old. Yeah. And his brother brings him to a party, and he does is trying to protect.
It's being a 14, 13-year-old kid.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And don't understand what your life altering decisions you're making.
Yep.
And yeah, man, we had to do the whole thing. I remember literally just a line of kids all the way down the street, and the cops were just questioning everyone. I'm covered in blood, sat there all night, until the sun came up, and we're still there until people got to go home. Years later, you had to sit in court and get cross-examined, do all the 9 yards. But yeah, it was, it was a pretty traumatic thing, and you would think that would be a turning point or a change in
it's going to
life.
But it may not change you for the better, but it's going to affect you tremendously.
For sure.
That's a lot of trauma and grief.
Yeah.
That it's hard to process that at 19.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. And so that was, I always say that put you on your knees, and then it wasn't but a year later. So, during all that, I was obviously we were okay, we're going to come home. I have a really good friend, Tate Stewart, who was just for whatever reason, just refused to not be involved in my life. He was good friends with my brother, my older brother. And just for whatever reason, always had a heart for me. And he was like, Mo, you're supposed to be playing football. Like, that's one of the main reasons you're in all this nonsense. He played at U of H. He was like an all-conference nose tackle. Awesome. And he basically forced my brother to go up to the high school to go get my tapes, and he brought them to his defensive coordinator and secondary coach. Scoladani was the defense coordinator. Savital was the defensive back coach, and it was like, hey, you need to talk to this guy. You need to get him in here. So I get a call from Coach U of H, say, hey, I don't have a scholarship, but you don't have to walk on, but come. We want to see what you got. So I got to walk on that next year. So that was over the Christmas break. Took off that spring semester, and then that next year was enrolled at U of H.
What would your junior year?
That would have been my technically it would have been my junior year. Correct.
Yeah. Like age wise.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
so you're playing football at U of H.
So I'm at U of H, right? And so I'm not playing because I'm just practicing because I can't play because we transferred all my credits from Blinn, and they're like, some things not going.
I had the same problem, man. I went to Blinn also for a year.
Okay, and so so not all your transfer,
That's right.
Your credits transfer like you suspect.
Yeah.
And so very annoyingly, like was practicing all year, but I couldn't dress up. I couldn't suit out because they were waiting on to figure out some credits.
Yeah.
So it gets to like 8th game of the year, and they're like, hey, you can't even practice anymore. You have to finish this class you're in. Your credits didn't transfer. Go bring your helmet to. No, I remember I went and my helmet was out of my locker room. Out of my locker. That's how I knew. And they're like, you need to go to compliance.
It's pretty disappointing, man.
Oh, so disappointing.
Yeah.
But at that time, my dad had started getting like pretty sick. Okay. So my dad had liver disease, and he was getting like more and more sick, and
it's like 06, 07?
Yeah, this was like 07. This was like 07, 08.
Gotcha.
And then so it gets to that fall or that spring, and I'm finishing those classes, and then my dad's starting to get really sick, and so I'm like, I actually probably should like get a job, because when you're a student, I don't know if at that time, if you walk on, like you are doing everything that the team is doing, except for you're not getting any type of stipend. You're not getting your food paid for. You're not getting your school paid for. You're not doing anything. So if you don't have any money and you don't have a support from your family, like it's really not possible to do. And so I was like, man, I got to get a job. I got to get, so I got a job. I got a good job, actually. And so it had me start questioning, like, okay, what do I really want to do? And then my dad was getting progressively more and more sick. And then I decided I wasn't going to go back, at least then, with the job. And then, thankfully I didn't, because just that 08 August, which had been the start of the season, my dad died. And so the Matt thing happened, a year or so before, and then that with my dad, which is like, that was like a really, really tough season for me. So my dad was awesome, with his testimony. He's like one of these guys that anyone could talk to and would talk to, because he was just so authentic about everything that he did. He didn't know any other way. And he had been there. Like he would go into, I remember at his funeral, a lady got up and was like, he came into the crack house and got me like by my arm and walked me out. Like he didn't care like who you were, what situation, all my cousins and everything. Cause he was a youngest of, second youngest out of like 9. And so all my cousins, like he was a cool uncle and like all of them, like he was the one that you could talk to, could be honest about what you had going on, wasn't going to judge you and just, but
he's going to try to get you out of whatever you're in.
He's going to come get you by the arm, and walk you out of it.
Yeah,
and he is, like I said, just a titan in the faith, just like a true believer. Like not one of these, a lot of, I think with PKs, a lot of the issues that come up is because they hear their parents in ministry on Sundays and Wednesdays and whatever doing and saying one thing, and then they see him in their real life and they're like, that doesn't match up. That doesn't, I don't get that. I don't understand that. Like what he said he did, like, and he lived it out to the point of where I'm like, man, like, it'd be nice if we had some more of this or some more of that. And he's like, I don't care about any of those things. I care about advancing the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, and that's it. And so that I thank God for. And, I don't, like, I couldn't imagine not having like that type of witness in my life. Like, man, like I saw it firsthand. Like, you put your hand to the plow, you do not come up. Like you do not remove it. Like if God calls you into something, you do it no matter what, whether there's one person, like they're literally my dad. I remember one time the church was going through some stuff and he would have church at the house and set some chairs up. And there's literally like one person, my friend Corey's dad was there sitting in the thing and he's preaching that to his family. He's like, this is what God called me to do. I don't care who's here or not here. I'll preach to an empty room.
Yeah.
And just a cool example too for me of like, man, like who cares? Like who cares about numbers and all these things? Like, are you doing what God is calling you to do? Like, period, the end. Like, do that. And then you know what? Maybe just one person comes to know Jesus and you get to see them in paradise. Like, oh man, you're going to hear well done. Like, and like to see that example played out is really cool.
So you got into the Navy.
Yeah, that was much after. And I'll share this one more thing and then we'll skip up to there.
Yeah.
One thing, and I've told Joe this, I'm surprised. Well, not surprised, Joe. So
this is Joe Rodriguez,
Joe,
who was on the show a little bit before that. Yeah.
So the night my dad passed, he told me the last thing he ever said to me. He had his Bible and he was reading his Bible. I mean, we didn't think he was going to,
Is this in the hospital?
Die. He's in the hospital, Memorial Harmon here.
Yeah.
And he's wearing his glasses and he's like, I was leaving. I was like, all right, Dad, I love you. And we had been going up there because he had been having some complications. And he's like, Morris, let me tell you something. He's like, fix the church. You need to fix the church. And I'm like, at the time, the church was in this like pretty rundown building. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, like, sure. Like, I'm not like, that's not my thing. And I think about it to this day because like, and my dad knew he didn't talk about church in that way. Like when he was talking about the church, he was talking about the people. And he's like, no, like you need to listen to me. Like, I need you to fix the church. And I left. I was like, yeah, Dad, okay, I'm going to fix the church. Like, sure. And so I left. And then that night, I got a call. I was like, hey, come up here. Your dad passed. And so something I take with me and something that has always been kind of a thing just with ministry in general. But yeah, and so that happens. Still living, I told you I'd gotten a good job. Like I was literally like, we dropped out of school and was making really good money. My friends are starting to graduate, make more money than all these guys do. And so I'm like living in a high rise downtown, just completely partying, doing whatever we wanted, getting into more drugs, getting into harder drugs, getting into more club and party drugs. And then, so the Navy. So what happened was the real story, the true story is that I was partying, advance, everything I did in life, like, in general, I was like successful at if I tried. And so I was like advancing throughout this company. I was advancing through AT&T. And so very young, managing stores, got into the business development side, moved over to the corporate side into business development, and got all this, like literally I only had to be at work at like once a week and was this young guy making all this money. And I just like stopped going to work, like just would go whenever. And so of course I get fired, and it's kind of like, well, you can't fire me because I quit type thing. And then I went through a time where I was like just trying to figure it out. I was like, I'm just going to do what I was doing there somewhere else. And it wasn't working. And I kept getting through these processes. And I was in a time in my life where I was still young enough where I was like, man, my dad was in the Navy, and he kind of started like a Navy legacy in our family. Like I have like 4 cousins that went to the Navy, like because of him, and like some of their kids. And so I was like, man, okay, if I'm going to go, I need to do it now because I'm getting older. And so I enlisted, and I went and I got into the submarine program. I scored pretty high on the ASVAB and went into the military. And the military, for me at least, it was like, yeah, they were like 18-year-old kids and stuff. And I'm like 26, 25 or so at this time. And so it was like really easy for me because it's like kind of just do what you're told, and like you're going to get by, do what you're told, like be sat, like get all, have everything in order. And so part of the reason I went in, because I think now I think about it, I think I knew I had a drug problem. I had a problem, and I was like, I need to do something that like can get me into a space where like this isn't even an option like that. And so
they're everywhere though, right?
As the story goes. So I was a good sailor. All my chiefs and senior chiefs, they all loved me because they're like, dude, you can count on this guy. I actually I got accepted into the honor guard there, which is the Silver Dolphins, which is like they're the honor guard there in Groton, Connecticut. And so I was there, I was waiting on my clearance because in order to be on submarines, you have to have at least a secret clearance because literally everything on a submarine is secret. And so you can't just be walking around or doing jobs on there. And I had to have a top secret because my job in sonars was, there's information that was secret. And, but if you've ever gone through a clearance process, it's like very, very intense. They'll call like your like second grade teacher and be like, hey, did you know this kid? And like, what was he like? And stuff like that. And another part of it, the other side of it is you cannot have any like real debt or anything like that because they don't want you
to be compromised.
Exactly. Yeah. The idea is they don't want you to be compromised. Yeah. And so if you have any outstanding debt or things like that or bad credit, they're like, okay, they have to look at it. And so I had lived life. I had a real job, apartment, cars, which most kids coming in, they're 18, you don't have any of that. And so mine was taking forever. And they're like, you have to pay down this debt. You have to do this and you have to do that. And so I was sitting there on this base in Groton, Connecticut, done with my A school, done with everything and just sitting there. And so I was in the honor guard waiting to do some of these things until they would clear me. So, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so we would go out on the weekends. And eventually, bowing drugs and find what you can do and what you can't do in the military and get away with it.
Yeah.
And so the deal was you can go and you could do drugs. You could do cocaine on Friday. And if you got drug tested on Monday, you should be good. It's about 3 days. And so that's what we would do. And so I'll never forget, I was going to be named the captain of the honor guard the next week. And then that Monday, we got drug tested and I popped for like the most minuscule amount of cocaine. And it was like devastating.
Yeah.
It was like literally so embarrassing too. Like literally going to be named the captain of the honor guard. And they're like, oh, you're out of there. You have to go to this restriction is what they call it. It's like jail kind of in the naval base. And it's like they literally walk you around from like lunch, breakfast, dinner. You have to like clean and like do random things. It's like you're in jail.
Yeah.
Stand for inspection every night. It's crazy. And, I was also like the head of the, basically like the unit where you're in transit when they're waiting for either your clearance or something to go through, or maybe you're leaving, going somewhere else, you're in this unit. And so I was like the head of that, running everything. And so I popped and, man, I know, like so many people, because a lot of people knew me and were in my corner and they're like, hey, dude, you're going to say, you don't know what happened. You're going to say this and that. Like at the time, and even now, there's like a major fentanyl problem in the Northeast there. And like kids were like falling out, like in the military, out of the military. So there's a lot of drug problems and people were getting, help and fix. And so they're like, dude, this is fine. It's minuscule. You're going to be okay. Like you're going to say this and, you're going to get out of it. So you have to go sit in front of a captain's mast and it's horrible. And then you go to court and, you get a JAG lawyer and all this stuff and they're all saying the same thing. You're going to be fine. For whatever reason, there was a commander and look, my senior chief came to my court hearing. My master chief which is like the highest command in the Navy enlisted. He was not there. He was traveling, but he called in and was like, hey, I vouch for him. Character witness.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, there was a commander there. And he was like, no, like you're out. And so at this time I was dating my wife, who's Ashley. And we had our life planned. We were going to go to Groton, Connecticut. We were going to finish out our term. Then we were going to, leave and do something else. But not Groton, Connecticut. We were going to go to Guam. And, they have the fast attack subs are there. And that's where I was going to serve. And we kind of had it all worked out. And it was like, nope, you're going to go home and get bussed out of the military with other than under honorable conditions, designation, which is another thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what your story is going to be.
Yeah.
And so just like all the things terrified, and what I'm realizing at this point in my life is that, man, I get to these heights of what I'm doing. God has always blessed me, always blessed me. And I get to these heights, and then because of drugs, bad decisions, it would just be crash down, get to the height at work where it's man, you're great. You're the young up and comer. And then because your bad drug habit, you come right back to earth. Number one sailor, honor guard, leader, and then drugs derail and then Jeff. So I come home and Ashley is, thank God, God, chose her to stick with me. And, we were we're going to figure it out. And by the grace of God, I got out and a recruiter found me and I got a pretty good job out of there, just from the background and technology that I had from the military and my sales background. A recruiter reached out and was like, hey. And so it was good. And so got a job. We moved out into Montrose. We got married, and like things are going pretty good. And then my friend Ben Golson, who I had played fantasy football with since our freshman year in college, there was like 16 guys, and everyone had played every year. And for whatever reason, he declined the invite. And so I texted him. I was like, dude, why did you decline the invite? And I'd seen he had been like going to church and stuff. And he's like, hey, man, I just, with what I got going on, I don't have enough time, sorry. And I'm like, okay, that's, you're the first person ever. And at that time, it had been like probably like 10 years, 15 years that declined the invite. And he texted me back and he's like, hey, man, are you going to church anywhere? I'm like, no, I'm not. Or yes, we've been looking, because my wife and I, one thing I knew, because I was still living my life the same way, knew God, heard from God, but still living my life in the same way. And by the same way, I mean, like now I would just do everything I was supposed to do on Monday through Friday. But on weekends, I was doing the same thing: drugs, alcohol.
Isn't that first like little bit of time after you?
This is whenever I get back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, get clean at first and then fall back into your old habits. But now this time, like I have my wife all wrapped up in it with me. And I knew, because how I was raised and how I grew up, like we got to get into church. We got to get into, because I was very content with like destroying my own life.
But you got responsibility now.
But now I have a responsibility.
Yeah.
For my wife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I know I fear God to the point where like, okay, I know you'll allow me to destroy my life, but if someone else is involved here. And so I'd been looking, we'd been going to some places, and Ben invited me. And I was like, okay, yeah, let me check it out. He sent me some videos. Went and checked it out. And that was when we joined the church that was formerly Sandbox as Anchor. And we went, and it was just real and authentic. I really liked, head pastor there was Brent Phillips, and like, Brent was like, the way the church started was, it was, no one got paid. Everyone was bivocational. It was just like, I'm part of an organization called C12. It's like business is ministry. So you like do ministry through your business. This was almost like ministry is business. Like the ministry it was a church, but like if anyone had business things, like the church would try to support, or people were there would try to support. And so the idea was like, hey, we're not going to, everyone has jobs, regular jobs, but finding the lost, empowering the found, and building life together was the, our little slogan. And we like truly did that, like did life together. If someone had an idea or business idea, we'd try to let them like flesh it out. If someone wanted to explore some gifts of the Spirit, we'd let them try and see and like reconcile that with the word and say, I don't think so. Like, that word wasn't for me, and try to be like open to all that and to everything.
Yeah.
And so it was just like a perfect church for us in that time. My wife really had never experienced like the true fullness of who Jesus was. I don't think I know until she experienced it in that church. And so we were going to church and we were flourishing, but you remember how I said we were still doing what we did on weekends? Well, we were still doing what we did on weekends in the church while we were in the church.
Yeah.
But no one knew. It was just between me and my wife. And man, we were just growing. Like God was in that, like in spite of that, we were growing. And I remember me and Ashley were having like some real problems. We were newlyweds too. And man, my brother in Christ, Dallas Bozeman, he pastors this little church called Grace 2 in Alabama. And we had done this men's group together, and so I know everything about him. And I call him. He has had some struggles with drug in his past. And I'm like, man, Dallas, my wife this is what's going on, and I'm struggling, brother. And he's like, man, what's going on with you? And so I just, for whatever reason, I just admit and confess. And he's like, are you really calling me, asking me about why you're having problems in your marriage and you're leading like this? He's like, what do you think's going to happen? What are you showing your wife? Who are you showing her you are? I remember it was so convicting because he's just like, you're an idiot. Like, what do you, like, you know better. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you're saying my wife's this, my wife's that. Oh, look how you're leading.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that happened. And then pretty soon thereafter, Ashley, for whatever reason, was super convicted by this lifestyle. Really, it was double life, essentially. And she walks up one Sunday after church and just tells our pastor. She goes to him and says, hey, I got to tell you something. She's like, me and Moe are doing drugs on the weekend. We have been for a while. And he's like, okay. And so they invite us over for, I think like, and he's just like, Moe, and because they had just asked me to be a deacon too. And that's what kind of like triggered Ashley. Was like, no, we're not doing this unless we get ourselves delivered.
Yeah.
And, throughout my life, like the ups and downs of like, okay. And like continuing over and over again, this like drugs, alcohol, which was also my dad's story, if you remember correctly, destroying my life whenever the Lord would bless me. And so he like very simply, he's like, you know what, Moe, Ashley, Moe, I don't need to tell you. I know your story, my testimony from the Navy. He's like, you know who you are. You know what God has called you to do and be. I'm not going to go back and forth with you about this. You just need to stop. Stop doing what you're doing. You know it's not honoring to God. And you know that you have a calling in your life. And I was like, okay. And that was it. It was over. I think maybe one time after that, like I was in some situation, but like it's like that was it. Like, and I just always think about how like he just showed us and he was like, we're going to bring you before the church and we're going to do this or that or that. He's like, you confess your sins. Like, I know who you are. I know who God called you to be. You're going to stop right now. And it was just like speaking that after the confession, after the repentance, after that, and just like speaking that. And it was just like broken. Like,
so how many years was it from that point until you got ordained?
Probably 2 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So pretty radical transformation that happens in your life over that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to a little bit of that?
Yeah. I
like
think
getting a sense of God's calling on your life, like real, like not vocational ministry, but like an elder.
Yeah.
And God really just grabbing you and saying, let's go.
Yeah. No, it was, it happened pretty quick because that would have been that like first year. And that was 2017, 2018. And then it was late or mid 2020. It was like we were just all in, all in. And it was almost like I'd been waiting for like, God, like, I just need like, I just needed the right situation just to be like completely 100% all after you. And he just like put it right there. Like, here, you have someone like Brent could have just been like, you're out and like all this and I would have deserved it and all that stuff. But he just like, grace, mercy. Look, I get what you're saying. We got work to do.
Yeah.
Like, and we did. We got to work and we did work. And just over that time, God just radically, what changed, Phil? This is what it is. And I always tell people this, that I always knew what to do. I knew what the Bible said, and I knew what the Holy Spirit was convicting me of. But it wasn't until I made a choice, a decision, put my 10 toes down. I am going to be obedient to what God calls me to do, no matter what comes, what may. That's when my life changed.
Yeah. And your oldest son, Moe, would have been born pretty close to that time, right?
No, Moe was 2020. Yeah, the end of 2020. He was, the end of 2020.
So I'm sure that had a...
Yeah, sure. He was the end of 2020. He was December 9th, 2020. So the end of that.
More responsibility. You're feeling that. Like, I got to get my... Yeah.
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 And by the time he came, like that was, we were going on 3 years away from that last incident. But yeah, it was, that was part of it too. More responsibility, more like
love, man.
Yeah, love.
Yeah,
growing my heart. Like I think about the Grinch. He's like grows his heart 4 or 5 times or whatever. But yeah, it was. Man, Phil, like I said, that obedience part. Like people discount that. Like, you could do and know and say all the right things until you do what God says. Like you're just like
you're gonna keep coming back to that same trial eventually. It's like the watering in the wilderness.
That's right.
He's gonna bring you back to that and be like, "Are you ready now? Are you ready to face that giant?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, it was, that's I always loved that part, the part with Brent, because, that was the one thing that I think that just that love, that grace, that forgiveness, that like, not like just him and, Brent's South African. So they're kind of a different breed where they're like, man, like sin is sin is sin. Like, I'm not going to hold this sin over you or this sin is like, stop. We have work to do. This is about the kingdom and the ministry. Let's go. Let's move forward. If you keep doing it, like, yeah, we have a problem. But if you confess, we're going to keep going. And for whatever it was, I needed that in that season, just someone to be there to hold me accountable in a way that,
it's giving you direction too.
Right.
Giving you a purpose, something to really pour everything into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, man, it's, yeah. And so we were at that church and, elder and, pastored that church through this year, April. And
so how did the church, and I don't mean necessarily people that were going to Anchor, but just the church in general, confirm God's call on your life? Because that's one of the things that they do, right? God will just send a person. It might be someone random, but just that says something to say, yeah, you're doing what God's calling you to do.
Man, just in so many, like the people who we met, just the people that came through, the people who gave their life to just come to know Jesus, the people who are still with these lifelong friendships, the connection with South Africa, the people in the church that we know over there, all these things, the radical transformation I've seen in my wife's life, just from going from, someone who's probably a pretty nominal, like Christian, like someone who would say, yeah, I'm a Christian, my family went to church, to being like, no, I know Jesus in my heart, in my mind, in my day-to-day, my every walk. I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a disciple of Jesus, and so can you. Like, that's just to see that like change in her life and how she leads and my family and man, just the tremendous blessing of just like relationship and growing deeper in the knowledge of who Jesus is. And yeah, it's always with that heart too. And I think about all the people and the impact, and just think about, man, even if it was just one, still, just like with my dad, that one guy, even if it was just one, but to see like, oh, it's more than that. How many people have come through, how many people are being blessed by, you know, what was built at Anchor and through Grace Now and through all that's going on. It's just an awesome testament of who God will use to accomplish his mission.
So I want to come back, just second to last question. All right. I want to come back to what your dad said to you in the hospital. I want you to fix the church. Fix the church. Obviously, one person can't.
No.
You know, it's going to be Jesus.
That's right.
You know, but how do you feel God is using you to help bring some correction to the church?
Sure. That's a good question, Phil. You know, with me, and I think you know me, man, I don't know how to be any other way except for 100% authentic. And I think one of our major problems in the church, especially our Western American church, is the inauthenticity. People don't want to come because they look, and you look like, oh, we have these perfect families and this perfect whatever, and we'll go to church on Sunday and, oh, hey, brother, how are you doing? It's great. Oh, hey, sister, it's going, it's great. And everyone's just broken and hurting and lonely and just messed up. And everyone else knows it because so are they. And so they look and they're like, man, why would I want to be a part of that fakeness?
Yeah.
And I think when I think about, like, let's fix the church, like, guys, let's be real about what's going on in our lives. Like, what are you dealing with? What's a sin? It's your secret sin that you're holding. Do you understand you can have freedom if you stop hiding? The enemy wants you to be isolated. The enemy wants to isolate you. He wants you to think you're the only one. No one else is going through that. You know, hey, you guys better not tell anyone you're doing drugs on the weekends, because if you do, they're going to kick you out. Yeah. They're going to. And it's how he keeps people from getting freedom. It's how he keeps people in bondage. It's how he keeps us all in chains. And like the sad part about it is a lot of times when people do get to that point and they are confessing, the response of it is not like a Christ-like heart. It's not one of mercy and forgiveness and understanding and rebuke. Yeah, but like, man, people just need people to love them. Like right then, we didn't need Brent to say, like, give me a lecture. I just needed him to say, hey, I still love you. I love you. And I know who you are. And I know this isn't you. And I know you struggle. And it's time.
Now, you and Ashley weren't coming to the pastor saying, this is who we are, and we're not changing.
Right.
You weren't coming with arrogance or pride.
No.
You're coming with authenticity and humility.
It was confession.
Yeah.
We're doing this. We're struggling with it. We know it's wrong. We feel inauthentic. We need help.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's so good. I mean, that's 1 John 1. You want to have fellowship with God? You want to have fellowship with one another? We got to come into the light. And if we do, man, there's all this life.
Oh my gosh.
Just starts coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
man.
so to your question, like, what is it? Like, dude, we got to get real. Yeah. Like, it's not, like, this isn't who can look and act the best and look the best. Like, dude, look, like so many people, like, are you going to do what the Bible says? You're going to confess your sins. You're going to do what the Bible says, or you not? And let's get real with each other, and let's, like, people are looking for authenticity. People aren't looking for fake. People aren't looking for a church service on Sunday. People aren't looking for, oh, let's all kumbaya. Like, man, no, like, let's get into it.
Well, dude, I really appreciate the fact that the main thing that you're calling the church to do, you've just modeled over the last hour, because you've been very real, very authentic. And I really appreciate that. You know, I've seen people give their quote unquote testimony, and like, it's just whitewashed wall. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
The hero at the end.
And it's not that we're supposed to, like, you know, like, get into all the gory details and stuff like that. We can still, like, be real without, you know, glorifying sin, you could say.
Sure.
You know, but man, I just so appreciate you. And I love to give people like a final word, like give y'all the final word. If there's anybody out there listening to this, you know, maybe is like a younger Moe. What's a piece of advice that you would want to leave them with?
Man.
I love the pause too. Measuring your words.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's a lot to the younger Moe. I'd probably say, like, look, if you come to the realization or revelation of how much it is that your God, Jesus, your Savior, truly loves you. Like, if we understood, like, the depth of what he thinks about us, how he sees us, if you could recognize that there's nothing, no sin you could commit, no good deed that you could do that could ever change the way that Jesus looks at you, that God looks at you. Like, he just wants you. He wants you and his family. And, like, once we can start getting on the line of grasping that, then our lives could be changed. He just wants us. There's no bad you could commit. There's no good you can do that's going to change the way that he loves you. And I think just, like, living out of that realization just can change the whole way you live, because then that's like the breath that obedience, like, that breathes out that obedience, because, like, man, many in the last day are going to say, Lord, Lord. Like, it's not the ones that know the word, it's the ones who do what God says that he's going to call sons and daughters. And I think we hinder ourselves when we think that we're not good enough, or it's not time yet, or I'm not ready. No, you don't get to choose the time. Like, when he calls you by name, you say yes, you go. And yeah, he just loves us.
Mind like a pauper, raised in a mansion, yeah. I can't understand it, but it won't leave me alone. House feeling haunted, my heart's in the Badlands, yeah. I'll grab my inheritance, cut a path of my own. just for a season, yeah. They'll pack up and leave you when you're gonna need them the most. Time flies from the penthouse to down in a pig pen, yeah. Pride lied and lived it, but I'm gonna run back home. And I've been taking chances, yeah, taking chances, and barely glancing at you. Taking chances, taking chances, no more taking chances. I'm forever standing with you. Stayed true through the hard times and mild celebrations. My life's temptations, minimizing planks of my own.